Hey guys, how are you all doing today? We're going to move into some matrix operations here. That's going to set us up for some stuff that we're going to do here moving forward. Should be this week and then 2 more lessons after this. So we're going to hit some important things here, and then we'll be good to go. So the first thing we're going to talk about is adding and subtracting two matrices together. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at example 1 right here. Adding and subtracting is incredibly simple. Okay, all we have to do is take into consideration the position of each number and add them together. So for instance, in example 1 here, I'm going to add the top left number in the first one with the top left number in the second one, and it's going to give me the top left number in my answer. Okay, so my top left number is -1 plus 1. That would output me a 0. Okay, I'm going to do the same bottom left. So 0 plus -1 will be -1. I'm going to do top right. 2 plus 3 would be 5. And bottom right would be 1 plus 2, which would be 3. And we've got our answer matrix right there. Okay. Take a look at example 2. I'm going to do the same thing. So these guys are going together, these guys are going together, and these guys are going together because they're all in the same position. All right, so the answer is going to look exactly the same shape as these. So top, I've got 1 minus 4, so that would be, oh, this thing makes me mad when it does this. 1 minus 4 would give me -3. I got a -3 minus a 2, that would give me a -5. And then a -2 minus a 3, I think that would give me another -5. Okay, and we've got our answer matrix. So, important, okay? In order to add and subtract two things together, they must, oh my goodness, hold on. I'm not sure why this is doing this, but it's okay. In order to add or subtract two things together, hang on. All right, here we go. If you can't tell, this has been doing this to me lately, and I'm a little bit irritated with it, but it's okay. What I was trying to say is, in order to add and subtract things together, they must, all right, I'm just going to write it, must be same shape. And what I mean by that is, like in example 1, that was a 2 by 2 matrix and added to a 2 by 2 matrix. Okay, so we actually figure out what size they are. You can see it down here. I've got it written below. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But it's the rows by the columns. So like example 1 has 2 rows, and then it has 2 columns. Example 2 has 3 rows and 1 column. So all of these in example 2 are 3 by 1 matrices, because there is 3 rows, 1 column. Example 1, those were 2 by 2 matrices. Okay, so they must be the same shape in order to add or subtract them together. Let's look at a scalar multiple here. Okay, so example 3, what I've given you is matrix A. Okay, A is a 3 by 3 matrix. Okay, because it has 3 rows and 3 columns. What I want to find is 3A. Okay, so this is basically the distributive property for matrices. What we're going to do is take that 3 and multiply it by every single thing in our matrix. So I'm going to start at the top left. I'm going to do 3 times 2, so that would give me 6. I'm going to move down the row. So 3 times -3 would be -9. 3 times 2 would give me 6 down here. So I've got the whole first row now. I'm sorry, a whole first column. All right, I'm going to the second column. So 2 at the top, so that'd be 3 times 2, which is 6. I'm going to work down. 3 times 0 is 0. And 3 times 1 would be 3. Okay, now I'm doing the last column. So 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times -1 would be -3. And 3 times 2 would be 6. Okay, so all we did was just distribute that 3 into every piece in there. So that's called a scalar multiple. So what's going to happen is, in some of your problems, they might say like, they'll give you matrix A and they'll give you matrix B, and they'll say find 3A minus 2B. Okay, so distribute your 3 into A, distribute your 2 into whatever the B matrix is that they give you, and then do your subtraction. Okay, and always keep in mind that they must be the same shape. Two things that are not the same shape, if you're ever given something that is not the same shape, let's say, for instance, you've got a 2 by 3 and a 3 by 3. Okay, that's actually, we've got one of those coming up here in a little bit, but we're doing something different. If you're ever asked to add something together like that, that is not possible. Okay, so that's how you would answer it. Don't really want to answer it as undefined. You just say it's not possible if they're not the same shape. Okay, so that's with adding and subtracting. All right, so now let's talk about matrix multiplication. Okay, so this is the real important part of this section. So in matrix multiplication, we definitely have to keep in mind the shapes of the matrices. Just like before when we were talking about it in addition and subtraction, they have to be the same, okay? They don't necessarily have to be the same down here. There are different rules, okay? So whenever we're multiplying them together, what we do is we want to write out what they are. And remember, it's row by column, okay? So this example 4 here has 2 rows and 2 columns in the first one, and 2 rows and 2 columns in the second one. In order to be able to multiply something together, they must have the same middle numbers right there. Okay, so if you see what I've boxed in, I'll box it in red. Okay, those two numbers have to be the same. They are in this case, 2 and 2. What happens is the outside numbers tell you how big your answer matrix is going to be. So in this one, since our two middle numbers match, we go and we look to see what, I've got that a little too big. We go and we look to see what size our answer should be. It's going to be a 2 by 2 matrix. Okay, so I'll go ahead and draw in a 2 by 2 matrix. That's what we should input. Well, that's what we should output. All right, so now follow along with me on what the process is. In order to fill the top left spot, okay, we need to do the intersection of that row and column in the first two. All right, so what I'm saying is that's the first row in the answer spot, and that's that's the first column in the answer spot, and it's also the same row. Okay, so what we're gonna do is intersect this row with this column. Okay, and how we're gonna do that is multiply both of the numbers. So I'm gonna take this 3. I'm going to multiply it by the 1. Okay, that's 3 and 1. That would be 3. I'm going to write it out here to the side. Okay, then I'm going to add the second part. So that would be 4 times 4, which is 16. Okay, so adding those together, 3 plus 16, 19 is the number that goes in that position. Okay, follow along with me. We're going to do a second one. Okay, let's go ahead and find the top right spot. Okay, so that is second row with first column still. Okay, so we're still first column. So that means we're gonna. I'm saying row and column backwards. Hold on. That's second column with first row, just like we had just a few seconds ago, but we did first and first. So we're still using the first row. I got blue underline over here, but now we're using the second column. Okay, so I'm gonna do 3 times 3, so that would give me a 9. So we're going to need that 9. Then I'm going to add, I've got a 4 over here, and I'm multiplying it by this 1. So 4 times 1 would be 4. So 9 and 4 added together, we can put a 13 in that spot. All right, now let's just talk through the bottom. So if I want to go for this position right here, all right, I'm going to try not to make too many marks on this, so hopefully you can follow me. I'm going to be using the bottom row with the first column. Okay, so that means I'll do -2 times 1, which would be -2, and then I'll add 5 times 4, which would be 20. Okay, so -2 plus 20 would be -18. And lastly, I've got the bottom row and the second column. So I'm going to do -2 times 3, which would be -6. And then I'm going to add 5 times 1, which would be 5. So that should give me a -1. And now I have my answer matrix right there. Note its size. It's a 2 by 2. Okay? I've got one more example for us. I'm going to keep that one there so we can see. Let's talk about the sizes of these in example 5. Remember, it is row by column. You should be able to see it there at the top of the screen. All right, so row, we have 2 rows in the first one, and we have 3 columns. Okay, columns are up and down, rows are side to side. I know I was messing that up a little bit ago. In the second part, we have a 3 by 3 because we have 3 rows and 3 columns. So our stipulations have to be that the middle numbers are the same, which they are. Okay, and the outside numbers tell us what size the answer should be. So our answer on this one is going to be a 2 by 3, it looks like. Okay, so follow along with me. We're going to start multiplying. If I want to look for the top left position, okay, I'm looking for the top left position in my answer. Right there's the one that I'm going for. I need the top row and the first column. So this guy times this guy. So I'm going to do 1 times negative 2, which would be negative 2. 0 times 0 would be 0. And 3 times negative 1 would be negative 3. I need to add all those up. I got a negative 5, and I've got that spot. Let's go ahead and find the middle one in the top row. Okay, so that's top row still, middle column. So 1 times 4 would be 4. 0 times 0 again. Actually, I think I misspoke a little bit ago when I said the middle one on the top one, 0 times 0, but it was 0 times 1, so it's 0 anyway. But on this one, 0 times 0 is a 0, and then 3 times 1 would be 3. So 4, 0, and 3. So that should give us a 7. All right, let's go ahead and go for the top right of our answer spot. So I need top row still, third column. So I'll do 1 times 2 is 2. 0 times 0 is 0. And then 3 times negative 1 would be negative 3. So 2 plus 0 plus negative 3 would be negative 1. All right, now let's go for bottom left. Okay, so that would be bottom row now. We're no longer talking about the top row. We're talking about the bottom row. All right, so I've got 2 times negative 2 would be negative 4. I've got negative 1 times 1 would be negative 1. And then I've got a negative 2 times a negative 1, which would be a regular 2. All right, so that'd be negative 5 plus 2, negative 3, if I'm adding them all up. All right, let's go for the next one. So that would be bottom row, middle column. So 2 times 4 is 8. Negative 1 times 0 is 0. And negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Okay, so that should output me a 6. And last one, I've got bottom row, right column. So 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 1 times 0 is 0. And negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. Okay, so 4 plus 2 would give me a 6. And we've got our answer matrix right there. So in the case that you have two matrices that are not the same size, so say for instance you had a 3 by 1 matrix and you wanted to multiply it with a 2 by 3 matrix, okay? These middle numbers do not match, okay? So that those two matrices cannot be multiplied together. Therefore, you'll answer it as not possible, just like we did above, okay? Okay, so those two matrices would not be able to be multiplied together. All right, so hopefully this made sense. If you're struggling, try rewinding and just running through it one more time. It should help just a little bit. If not, let me know and I can answer you some questions. So I got a couple questions on the row operations from last week with the 3 by 3s. Those things are just tough, okay? That's just the way it is. If you make any mistakes, if you mess up one negative or mess up any multiplication or stuff like that, it'll throw your whole process off, okay? And I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. So please don't stress over anything like that. Obviously, we can't test or anything like that. So we're just trying to make the best of the situation, and I have some sense, and I'm not going to beat you down on some of that stuff. So please don't stress over anything in this class or anything like that. And don't hesitate to ask me with anything you need. Okay, so that goes for this week too. If you need anything, let me know. I can send you a video. I can send you a screenshot, whatever you need. Whatever will help. Okay, so let's work on page 527, 13 through 20, and 33 through 40. Okay, so again, let me know if you got any problems, and I appreciate you guys doing your work and hanging with me. I know you don't really have much of a choice because you're still getting zeros in this class with it being college credit, but you're doing a great job with with keeping up with everything, so I appreciate it. Okay, so I'll talk to you guys next week. Let me know if you need anything.